Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Bianca Collins. I'm the Curator of Public Programs for the Fowler Museum at UCLA. The Fowler is very excited to present today's program as part of our World Arts Local Lives digital programs. This is the third in our Lunch and Learn series, which offers easily digestible curatorial explorations of charismatic objects from around the world found in our permanent collection. We're so happy that you've joined us to chew on some sustenance and feed your mind during your lunch break. Today, we will be taking a deep dive into the background of a spectacular headdress created by young artists who emigrated from the countryside of Sierra Leone to the capital of Freetown after the country gained independence from the British in 1961. Our fearless guide today is Gassia Armenian, Curatorial and Research Associate and Editorial Assistant at the Fowler Museum at UCLA. Gassia conducts collections research to facilitate curatorial and scholarly endeavors. She also liaises with collectors and lenders to the Fowler and manages various aspects of planning and organizing museum exhibitions. Ms. Armenian has helped to mount many exhibitions at the Fowler over the past 20 years. Prior to that, she served as a consultant and project coordinator at the U.S. Agency for International Development for Junior Achievement of Armenia, where she developed and implemented civics education training programs and teaching methodologies. If you have any questions during this program, I encourage you to submit them via the Q&A function found at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You can submit and upvote questions that you would like to hear answered by Gassia at the end of the program. All right, that's enough from me. Over to you, Gassia.
Hello. I am so glad that you could join me for lunch. Well, I guess since we are all under the 2020 effect, we can adjust time and space to fit our needs. So you know what? Let's all go to Freetown, Sierra Leone. Well, this is quite a long flight. And if we could, it is a very long flight from Los Angeles to Freetown, and you can follow the arc. It is about 7,000 miles and over 10,000 kilometers. But it is a beautiful country with the mountains that the Portuguese explorer Pedro de Sintra in the 15th century looked at them and said, mountain of Lion Mountain, Sierra Leone, and that's how the name Sierra Leone was attributed to the country. Well, today I have a very special guest who's joining us for lunch. It is this beautiful, scintillating headdress of love and hope from Freetown, the capital of Sierra Leone. This spectacular and complex headdress representing a mosque, and here are the minarets, you can see the minarets, was the handicraft of young migrants from the countryside of Sierra Leone to the capital city right after its independence from the British Empire in 1961. For a brief moment, let's go back to the 18th century. For over 150 years, Sierra Leone was under the colonial rule of the British Empire. In the 1780s, it was the site of an agricultural experiment configured by Mr. Granville Sharp. He was a member of the British Parliament, and his primary responsibility was, and I quote, to act as the custodian of the lands in its overseas possessions, end of quote. He was one of the first British campaigners for the abolition of the slave trade. Mr. Sharp formulated a plan to partition the land and to settle freed Black slaves in the province of Freedom, later known as Freetown. These were the slaves returning from America, slaves who had fought on the British side during the American Revolutionary War from 1775 to 1783. Now let's do another leap in time and let's go forward to 1961. The independence of Sierra Leone from the British Empire. This was an amazing event filled with pomp and circumstance. Queen Elizabeth II arrived with her entourage to hand over the country to its rightful owners. Sierra Leoneans flocked the streets with banners, flags, flowers to greet the Queen. Just imagine for a moment this feeling of empowerment, of independence, and of hope. As a result, a massive influx of young people moved from the countryside to the capital with dreams of a better life, better jobs, better homes, better environment, just better everything. Unfortunately, the flip side of this euphoria was the reality of serious socioeconomic concerns. It was not easy to find accommodations. It was not easy to find jobs. It was not easy to integrate into society. It was quite difficult. It was very challenging. Yes, the young people came with dreams, but they did not have shelter. They did not have the means to provide food for themselves. They did not find jobs. They were emotionally crushed, demoralized, and disillusioned. They were left on the streets and they became prey to addictions, homelessness, illnesses, injustices, riots, you name it. This very unfortunate situation became the main cause of charitable organizations functioning in Freetown. For example, the Zoro Unity and the Young Muslim Men's Association. How could they assist these young people? How could they keep them out of the perils of the street? They organized soup kitchens at the mosque. Yeah. They gave them overnight shelter at the mosque. And they sponsored a variety of guided activities to help them adjust to urban life. They trained them for employment, particularly for jobs at the Ministry of Public Works. Just imagine, in a short period of time, these migrants were trained to install electricity lines throughout Freetown. For entertainment, the Young Muslim Men's Association formed the Jolie Society or club to produce a citywide parade festival to celebrate the end of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, the Eid al-Fitr. This society was called Jolie because it emulated the fancy costumes that were worn during balls during the British colonial era. And the members of the Joli Society would create the headdresses that they would wear during the parade. Well, my guests, this headdress that represents the mosque was worn during one of those parades. These migrant workers, these migrants from the countryside who came to Freetown, they were not artists. They were not trained artists. They were regular common people. They were unknown artists who created masterpieces like these. Guess what? They used recycled materials to adorn the headdresses. They used leftover wires, they used Christmas tinsel, discarded curtains, handkerchiefs, bits of velvet, netting, brocades, polyurethane foam, you name it, whatever they could find around them. Some of these unknown artists were very talented carvers, and they carved and painted wooden faces out of pieces of wood that they found in their neighborhoods. And these beautiful superstructures took many shapes and forms. Here you have the mosque, from the mosque to the British crown, from elephants to airplanes, from Mamiwata to Al-Burak, and many other mythical creatures. These unknown artists, these migrants, proved to us that with hope, you can overcome the most horrible, the most doomed human condition. They proved to us that love and hope move us. They move us forward to the light. The themes of these parades were varied and different from one year to the other. And these ephemeral and secular objects were discarded or recycled after one use. The Fowler Museum at UCLA is very fortunate to have 11 of these unique headdresses. We are the only institution worldwide to have this extensive collection of Jolie headdresses in our holdings. They were purchased in the field by a local who believed in protecting cultural history and preserving cultural heritage. And later on, they were purchased by the museum in 1986. We exhibited all 11 of them in 2016. And here I'd like to share with you some photos of the installation at the Fowler Museum. So here you can see the headdresses. They come in various shapes and forms. And if some of them are Janus figures, they have a face looking forward, another face protecting your back. There are biplanes in our holdings. And finally, our beautiful mosque headdress. Now pay attention, there is a little iPad to the bottom right of the slide. I'm going to talk about it right now. Well, during the organizational stages of the exhibition, I was very curious to know the inner structure of the headdress. What held this superstructure together? What was the armature like? It was not visible to the eye. I palpated. Believe me, I even used a flashlight to see inside, but it was to no avail. Of course, I had to be super gentle because we take very good care and we keep the integrity of our objects intact. So I thought and I couldn't find an answer. One morning, I woke up with a light bulb flashing in my mind. We should have the headdress CT scanned. That was it. Well, a CT scan is a computed tomography X-ray where a narrow beam of X-ray is rotated around the patient, or in this case, around the headdress, and it takes cross-sectional X-rays, which later on, with the use of a special software, are put together to create the inside of the patient, or in this case, the headdress. But this process was the invention, the CT scan was the invention of the South African-born Dr. Alan Cormack, the chairman of the physics department at Tufts University, my alma mater. Professor Cormack Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1979 for the invention of the CT scan. And he had absolutely no idea that years later, his invention was going to help understand and appreciate art. So we decided to partner with the UCLA Radiology Department's Translational Research Imaging Center. And we took the headdress to the radiology lab, this same one. This same headdress that was sharing lunch with all of us. She was extremely kind and indulged in my curiosity. Well, here I should mention that the radiologist made sure that it was a secular object and not one used in sacred religious rituals. He said, whatever holds sacred elements, secrets, should remain away from the human eye. And I absolutely assured him that it was an ephemeral secular object. Look at that. Here she is on the X-ray bed. Isn't that, it was totally amazing for me. You know, it was just incredible that this could, look at this screen. The left half of the screen shows the X-ray, which is two-dimensional, and the right half of the screen is the CT scan progressing, taking X-rays of one layer at a time, one cross-sectional layer at a time. To be honest with you, this was an experience that I can only compare to attending the birth of a baby, okay? I was full of awe and anticipation. I was going to see the inner structure slowly unveiled to me, one breath at a time. And wow, this was a masterpiece of structural engineering. Look at that. It was amazing. 3 different gauges of wires were used to hold all the outer embellishments of this superstructure. Now, going to the CT scan, it took a life of its own. We had the 3D model on an iPad in the gallery, and the visitors could play with it, twirling it around, turning it upside down to their heart's content. You can find it on our museum's website, but trust me, I will not deprive you of that joy, and I will share this fabulous representation of hope and love and its X-ray will have their place in the upcoming exhibition, The Map and the Territory, celebrating UCLA's 100th anniversary. The exhibition will open in January 2021, God willing, and I would love you to come and see her in person. I will be there. Just let me know and I'll greet you. And now, my dear friends, I would like to extend my words of gratitude and thanks to all the young Sierra Leonean migrants who came, experienced adversity, difficulties, but never gave up hope, and armed with determination and love are here today in spirit to empower us for the future. Don't you think we need them right now? I do. Yeah. Well, from the Fowler crew, thank you, Marla, Bianca, Jean, Izzy, Erin, Nina, Libby, Dawn, Jeremiah, for your encouragements. And most of all, I'd like to thank you for breaking bread with me. Stay safe and never give up. Well, you can find the link to the CT scan in the chat box. Just click on it, and depending on your device, you can either play with your finger or with your cursor. And now I'm ready to answer your questions. Bianca will be directing me your questions, and thank you.
That was great, Gassia. Thank you so much for all of that information. We're going to drop a link to the website page with the 3D model on it so that everyone who's watching can access it easily. So we've got some questions here. Someone wants to know, Barry is curious to know, how did this Nigerian style mask make its way to the Jolie Society? Do you know?
Yeah, that's another half hour of lunch and learn, but it is Ibibio-like, and probably among the migrants, there were some Ibibios who came and used their style of masks to adorn the headdresses. Yes.
Okay. And someone's wondering what drove you to study Freetown so in depth?
Oh, yes. First of all, I was extremely attracted. Every time I went to our storerooms, I was very attracted to these headdresses. And then my curiosity made me look into their history. And this is, it somehow became quite personal, because from my childhood, I remembered an event that took place in Beirut, Lebanon, where I was born. That there was a Masquerade festival celebrating the end of the holy month of Ramadan, the Eid al-Fitr, and some accident happened. So in my mind, it hadn't rested, it hadn't settled, I hadn't found answers to it. And then suddenly, by studying and learning more about these masks, I figured out that these masquerades not only happened in Freetown, Sierra Leone, but they happened in the Islamic world throughout the Middle East. So that's why I went more in depth, studied them in full detail, or it's not even in full detail. I wasn't there during the masquerade, so I can't say that, but it gave me a deeper appreciation of the corpus of objects that we have at the Fowler Museum. Yes?
Someone else was saying, well, the way they wrote it was, were none of the artists alive to ask how the masks were made? Do you know if there's any living Jolie headdress artists?
This was a very ephemeral headdress. This was a very ephemeral form, just like, I don't know if I can compare it, like our Halloween costumes that we make at home and wear it 1 year and put it aside, or any arts and crafts project that we've been doing during this pandemic by finding bits and pieces of everything around the house and creating something new. These were not established art schools or art processes. These were just haphazard, whatever they could find. It was arts and crafts mostly. And I don't know, right now in Freetown, Sierra Leone, this particular style of headdresses, and you know what? I'm very lucky that I'm talking to you from my office, and it so happens that I have 4 more Jolie headdresses just looking at me, and I'm going to move around and show. They're here for photography purposes. Our professional photographer, this is Al Burak, and this is another Jolie headdress with the British crown on it, and this is, they're all lined up for their headshots, professional photography. This is the British crown, and I cannot really show you the rampant lion and the rampant unicorn holding the crown, but I can show you several faces. I hope you can see them, and here she is. Wow. Yeah, you can see the cafe curtains, you know, adorning the headdress. And this is another crown. And Al Burak is a mythical creature, half horse, half human torso, who according to legend carried the Prophet Muhammad to his eternal life from the Rock in Jerusalem, where the Dome of the Rock Mosque is built right now. That's Al Burak. And yeah, any other questions?
There. Yeah, I mean, someone is saying, Mary Lou says, the most common masks in Sierra Leone are helmet masks belonging to male and female secret societies. Does this mean they may have looked for a completely different style?
I think my guest is speaking about the Mende helmet masks, and that is specifically for a secret society of girls and girls initiation society. These are totally different. These are, we don't even, you know, they could be some Temne people who came from the countryside. They could be some Mandingos who came from the countryside. There could be some Mendes who came from the countryside. This is just the grassroots, at the grassroots level. This is, it just emanates from the people, the common folks. Yeah.
And so do you think that there's any influence on the masks that we see in Venice and Rio?
Oh, well, I hope there is. You know, masquerades usually, headdresses tend to be quite elaborate and brilliant, scintillating, with all kinds of adornments. The more the merrier, the better it is. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it could be. Yeah. I haven't studied that in depth, but it could be, yes. Well, definitely. You're making me think for another talk. Yes.
Someone's asking about the materials used, and obviously there's quite a wide array,
Oh, very wide. Yes, yes. I assure you, they didn't go to the nearby fabric store or arts and crafts store to buy the materials. They used whatever they could find. And I'm going to bring my laptop very close so you can see. You know, we preserve them as they came to us. They're bits and pieces cut out from ribbons, fringes, tinsels that are totally, have lost their luster and their shine. Little mirrors. Nothing, I assure you, nothing was purchased from Joanne Fabrics to make these. You know, it's like whatever they could find, whatever discards. On one of the headdresses that I just showed you, it had curtains, kitchen cafe style curtains. It's whatever they could find, they recycled, you know, that's what we've been doing lately at home. We've been recycling all kinds of things to adjust to the current situation.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Gassia, for such an enthusiastic lunch and learn. I mean, your passion for your work is so palpable. We're so lucky to have you as part of the Fowler family.
Thank you, Bianca. Thank you for everything. Thank you.
And thank you to everyone who joined us. Some of you joined our program last week and you were flexible and you came back today to hear this program. So thank you for sticking with us. This program has been recorded. It will be available on our Instagram and on the Fowler website for you to revisit and share. Thank you, and I hope that you'll all join us again soon. Have a great day.